write about. Trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just discount? I don't know.
That was great sounds. Watson with Outside on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Preston, with my partner in crime, Long Island raised, Elm City made, Mr. EZ BlueZ. Easy. You are always better with introductions more than me. Who do we have with us today on the program?
Understand this. When you have a true connection to your past, will your future really understand where you are today? Understand that when you make a statement and you stand up for other people, understand that at the big moment during a march, someone stood up and said, first and foremost, we take care of the children. I don't care what color the child is. The child is the most important thing there. Understand that that is the caliber of human being we stand with today. Today, I want you to truly understand what it's like to put yourself past the now, holding on with the generations before, standing on their shoulders and moving forward. So for that and that alone, I want you to put your hands together. Not if you're driving. If you're driving, please keep your hands at 10 and 2 because we don't need any accidents. But mentally, I want you to put your hands together for the fantastic, the amazing, the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Yeah. Allah Ochumare is in the building with us today.
Thank you for saving me a work on a sound effect machine. I'm trying to get that, but thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Allah, thank you for being a part of it. Good to talk to you again. And if I call you Xena Warrior Princess throughout this interview, please forgive me.
I would love that. No, okay. I would love that.
Okay, cool.
Because fun fact, that's why I asked you to like repronounce your name for me numerous times because like Xena is always in my head. And for the listeners who are questioning what I'm talking about, we used to work together back in the day. And, you know, I think it was some funny conversation we had because we were laughing. And, you know, I just said Xena, and then she just did the warrior call. And so throughout my tenure of working with her, I called her Xena Warrior Princess because, like, she did not hold her ground, especially when it came to disrespect with customers and just, like, numerous people throughout the shift. You know, she did not bite her tongue to certain people and did not tolerate the disrespect. So that's why I just called her Xena. So, like, every time, you know, something happened, Xena came to save the day.
Yes.
So.
Yes. I think Xena was there the day that I almost actually assaulted a fellow coworker.
Yeah. Easy worked with us as well too at the establishment that I cannot name. And you know, so if I call her Xena or they Xena throughout this broadcast, please forgive me. It's just, you know, my past calling back to me.
So I'm just gonna say I'm waiting for my Xena Warrior Princess pop socket to come in the mail.
That's gonna be amazing. That's gonna be amazing.
So actually, I'm okay with Xena, and I just started rewatching it. So no worries at all. I am a multifaceted being and have had multiple lives, and I feel honored that you remember the space that I held when we first met. I love that.
Xena, tell me in your own words, what do you do? And do you feel like you're a real life superhero right now?
I've never been asked if I feel like I'm a real life superhero. I would probably say yes, because I deal with so much BS. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What do? I am a villain to oppression. I am a coach and facilitator who coaches in race, justice, dignity, accessibility, and belonging. If you notice, I left the 3 letters that are all up for debate right now out and always have, even though they are very much inclusive in the work that I do. Mm-hmm. I am a social justice, Black liberation organizer. Co-founder of the New Haven chapter of Black Lives Matter. I am a transformational justice advocate and a street justice advocate, as I am a abolitionist. I am a friend. I'm a mom. I am a partner. I'm a rabble rouser. I'm a supporter. I'm a bringer of joy. I'm a voyeur of joy. I love watching other people be happy and experience joy. It makes me experience joy. And whenever I get so lucky to be able to bring other folks joy, it's like a kerfuffle of just joy and love. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
This didn't happen overnight.
No.
What made you want to go out there? I know a lot of stuff has been going on. There's numerous reasons, but for you personally, just as an advocate, just as someone doing so much for the community, you know, back then and right now and pretty much forever, because this is your purpose in life.
Mhm.
What made you want to make that decision to go out there?
My son,
Mm,
my son, we were on a family vacation during the Zimmerman trials. And
Mhm.
so, like everyone else in the world, we were watching the Zimmerman trials. He was 9, so he wasn't really watching, but he was watching us, the family,
Right.
watch.
all right.
And after the trials, he sat me down with this serious conversation. And he was a 9-year-old. So, 9, everyone, they always want to be police officers or firefighters,
Mhm.
judges, right? And he sat me down very seriously. It was jarring how serious he was. And he sat me down and he said, Mommy, I can't be a firefighter or a police officer anymore. And I was like, why? Sidebar, I never wanted him to, but I believe that as a parent, you're supposed to support your kids' dreams.
Absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
never said I don't want you to, but I was the bravity of what he sat me down. It was like he had to reveal something to me. And I asked him why. And he said, police officers, firefighters, judges, they're supposed to save people. They're supposed to right wrongs. And what happened to Trayvon was very wrong. And then the person who did that got off. And the people who were supposed to fix that, no one did their job right. And I don't want to be that person anymore. And I sat with that and I said, okay, whatever you want to do, you're still so young, you don't have to decide, right? And then we came home, and in that weekend, there were, I'm from New Haven, lifelong raised, and in that weekend, we lost someone to street violence in every neighborhood. In most neighborhoods, we actually, in a weekend, in a 3-day span, it was a lot of retaliation, a lot of stuff going on. And we were walking to the store in the Ville, and we happened to see one of those retaliations. My son, my nieces, everyone. And after we got to safety, and we had this conversation with the kids about what we saw, what we witnessed, about safety. Every loud pop is not firecrackers, things like that. Um, I had to do something. I had to do something. Not only was my son affected by government and the lack of just care at the level of that, but we come home and then that same care, lack of care, is also being displayed in our communities and neighborhoods. And most of this is a direct result of what's happening at the legislative and government level. And I needed I didn't want to blame our communities because I knew that what our behaviors were some of the result, and some of it I just didn't understand. And so I went on a hunt because I
Mhm.
thought Black Lives Matter must, by that time it was 2015. I was like, Black Lives Matter must be in Connecticut. This is Connecticut, right? Like we have everything. And I scoured the state. I
Wow.
went to so many meetings and I couldn't find, and someone, anarchist who is now one of my great friends, was like, well, you should start it. And I
Yeah.
was like, but I'm not. And they were like, you just organize trying to get here. That's what organizing is. You just got to bring other people in.
Mm,
And I reached out to my best friend, who I jokingly used to make fun of and tell her she was going to be like the next mayor because she went to like all the community meetings and she went to all their meetings, and she wasn't organizing. She just was she would get on the bus and go downtown and walk around on the green and talk to houseless folks, talk to people at the bus station, at the bus depots, and like just get on the bus. And so I knew that if I was going to connect with anyone, that it would be her, my best friend's son. And then we connected with Donnie, and then we connected with Cy eventually. And that's how Black Lives Matter was started. I also was homeless at that time. And so I went on a 2 and 3 year training expedition where I traveled around the Northeast and Southeast, and went to every fellowship, every program that I can get into. And because I was houseless and unemployed, I was able to go into all those programs at a scholarship level. And I made sure that I trained and workshopped, unlearn, relearn, undo as much as I could, to not be another obstacle in the communities that I wanted to work in, and I wanted to be identified as a leader, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't replicate systems of oppression. And I wanted to also understand what was happening to me. I couldn't understand why I kept facing houselessness. I was working so hard. I was going, so it was a culmination of trying to understand why my lived experience kept showing up in the ways that it was, and what our communities were going through. And I wanted to, most importantly, show my son that you can do and be whatever it is that you set your mind to. It doesn't have to be some cookie cutter existence that other people tell you you're supposed to fall into. Real liberation is you identifying success, you getting to what your success is, and not stepping on, squashing, or harming people along the way. And that's how it is.
Yes.
How tall is your boy?
How old is he?
How tall?
Oh,
And how
tall.
old?
He is about 6'1" now, and he just turned 21 in April. April 28th, he turned 21.
Yeah, time
Yeah,
flies ridiculous. Like, my two younger, like my oldest is about to graduate high school, and my two younger ones are in their sophomore year. Yeah. Little things. Yeah, tiny things that came in and said hello and were very polite. Yeah, they're huge. They're not as polite, and they smell a lot worse than they did before. That's. I just look. If people were just honest about parenting, they'd be like, look, when they hit about 15, there's going to be a smell, and
It's gonna be a smell, and you're just gonna look at them like this,
right?
so much.
For real. Oh, and shake your head, just like
so much. So it's just awesome to hear the full story and to understand, your son's impact in your story. And I love relatable things, and I remember coming from the big march that we did here in New Haven. That was one of my youngest finally looked at me and was like, "Hey, I don't want to be a police officer anymore because they're not supposed to do that." And to watch the heartbreak and the understanding of that aspect, and to have a child who is not on the front line aspect, because to sit there and have the empathy to understand, what's actually going down, and to see what's going down. And I remember when they had to leave because it was getting late and they were still young. They actually, a car was pulling up to meet up with the protesters, and they handed their signs over. They're like, here, you're going back over there. So these words need to be seen. Go back over there and have fun. So to really have that understanding in your story, and then also the relation aspect of it, and how it was actually a story where you were connected to it because you were in the front of the pack. I'm serious when I say one of the most incredible moments of that, and I've talked about it on the radio show a bunch of times. One of the most incredible moments was the day of that march, when the march before, there was interaction with the police, and there was some really rough nonsense that was there. And this was supposed to be a family march, and you said, I don't care. If you as a child, you put them behind you first. I don't care what color the child is. I don't care what size the child is. Put the child behind you.
And that was the moment where I knew that there was something special. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know what's wild? I don't even know which march you're talking about.
It was the one right after the one where you guys had Elliker in the police station and, the cops sprayed everybody. It was the march right after that one.
Oh, yes.
It was the really big one that I actually saw Elliker at. I'm just going to be real. I saw Elliker at that march. I was like, hey, buddy, nice to see you not running.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, because yeah. Yes. Thank you for grounding me in that. It's so funny. I've heard so many times people tell me that the actions that I hold and that I lead have been some of the most inclusive that they have ever been in. I remember one time we had folks in wheelchairs on our front line, and we go at the speed of the front line. We leave nobody behind. Nobody gets left behind. We tighten up. We protect each other. And I have been to other actions where I did not have that safety.
Right.
And that's why I continue to do it. And that's why when we take the ground, we take the streets, we take them all day, because we are going to make sure that our folks are safe, our young people know why we are here. We're not just yelling in the street. We are making connections, and these are our streets. And we're going to make sure that if folks never joined an action before, that they at least know after our actions that why they're here, why we're doing this, and why we need them. So thank you so much for that grounding. It's important for me to know how that is reflected in my community. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course.
Which leads to my next question. How do you bring joy into justice work, especially in a world that tries to center only pain in Black stories?
I bring joy because I'm a living personification of joy. You can't have the revolution without joy. Love is in the middle of the revolution. And so much of what we're socialized into believing as historically divested identities in any of those historically divested identities, and if you're at the intersections of multiple historically divested identities, we have been socialized to believe that we don't deserve happiness. We don't deserve joy. And a part of my work is to bring back our dignity, to help us remember our dignity. No one could take it away, but it can be socialized for us to believe we no longer hold it. And you need joy to fuel the fire that is indeed needed for revolution. That's why we have dance sessions in our actions. We center some of the like twerking. We talk about the history of twerking and where it comes from. And we have joyful dance parties in the middle of the intersections. We'll take over Whaley Avenue and have a dance party if we need to, if our city wants it. I have to move in joy. Otherwise, I would only be able to witness and experience the constant obstacles and oppressions that not only I face, but our community faces. And sometimes joy is the only resource that we have to be able to invigorate us to continue to come out. And I'm not just a monolith. None of us are. And joy is anarchism. Joy thwarts oppression. Folks want us to only sit and identify our pain and angst. And whenever we make a list, you have to make a list about what's good about you and what's bad about you. Most people that bad list is like pages long, and we got 3 things on our what's good about us list. And the personification of that is joy. And I think we deserve it. And we honor our ancestors, and we honor the people whose shoulders we stand on. And we take a second and experience joy and make sure that we do anything in our power to extend it out.
on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Preston, and Long Island Raised, Elm City made, Mr. EZ BlueZ. I'm with Xena Warrior Princess right now. You describe yourself as pro nap. Can you break down what rest and restoration mean to your politics?
Being in a world not designed for either any of us on this phone call, on this Zoom. We have been conditioned to be assets, deliverables, production. We have been commodified. We are identified at the government level as non-people, right? And how we are going to be able to actually experience the world that we're fighting for is to get some rest, and rest, not to rest to be able to go and be productive again, but rest because some of our ancestors died on the fields. Some of our ancestors died on boats. Some of our ancestors died in sugar fields. They were worked until they died. Babies, children. Some of our ancestors did not even get to see past the age of 11 and 12 because they did not even have a concept of what rest meant. They only were allowed to sleep for very short hours to then go and become an asset, a deliverable, production, produce. And so the joy, the revolution, and just being able to be like, you know what? I'm going to take a nap is for some people, that's going to be the only liberation we get to experience. And as a person who has insomnia, as a person who has to have aids in order to be able to sleep, I have to have medicine to help me sleep. Being able to allow myself my first nap that I took in the daytime, I woke up and then I was able to do what I needed to do. And that was really some artwork, right? It wasn't work, it was artwork. And realizing that the joy of napping, of restoring your body. Our bodies heal when we sleep. That's the only time we get to heal. Sleep. And some of us get 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, and that's it. Our bodies are never healing. And I think of naps. Every time I take a nap, when my body allows me to, I tell myself that I've healed something in my body. And so I'm pro nap, I'm pro rest. Anything I do, any spaces I create, any containers that I co-create, always have rest and restoration at the foundational level. We cannot overthrow systems of oppression that have been working and working for years and hundreds of years if we're not in our best. And the only way we can heal is by sleeping. And sometimes the only power we have is to take a nap. And so I'm very pro nap. And I probably push naps on other people more than I can get myself, but I'm working on it.
That's awesome. What does decolonization mean to you beyond the buzzword? And how do you live it out day to day? I had to break it out because I was slurring my words.
I love that. Thank you for asking me that question.
No.
Decolonization means to me my entry into the cycle of liberation. A lot of the work that I do, if anyone comes to my workshops, any of my coaching tracks, we talk a lot about socialization, our socialization into fear, isolation, systems, right, that replicate. And we decide at some point in that system, we decide to either continue that system or exit out into the system of liberation. And for me, decolonization looks like if I send you an email and it has a I that's not capitalized, I am no longer going to freak out and
Yes.
have a conniption and go into an anxiety attack.
Yes.
If I, lover of words, lover of dictionaries, I love language, right? And I've also know that this is not my mother's tongue. This is not my mouth. Every usage of the English language is a smack in the face of what I am, what my mother's tongue is. And so I no longer have an adoration of the written word, so much so that if there are grammar mistakes or things like that, I'm not going to hold someone else or believe that they are less than who they are or who I need to believe that they are because they make some grammar mistakes. I also am not going to subscribe to the beliefs that the closer we get to what whiteness is or what whiteness tells us is successful, most of the time that actually goes directly against what culturally and historically ancestrally is in our bodies. And so I'm not going to center the tools that were used to oppress, to snatch my mother's tongue, to take me and my family and my communities from our motherlands. I'm not going to center that as what is the most right or the best or the greatest. I'm also going to in decolonization, I look at the way we connect as with each other. We have been socialized into isolation, into independence, and humans are the only living entity that if we do not have other humans with us as a baby, we are destined to perish. And so what colonization and colloquialisms have taught us is that these invisible bootstraps that no white man has ever pulled himself up. If you ever have bootstraps and you try to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, literally, it's impossible. You can't do it.
You fall down.
You fall down on your face, on your face. And so the undoing of those behaviors and those beliefs, not holding my community and the people who, whether I like you or not, you deserve to live, you deserve to have a house, you deserve to eat, you deserve to have joy, whether you're a racist or not, right? And decolonization helps me understand that those colloquialisms that we have been taught and trained into are actually what is eviscerating humanity, what is ruining the planet, right? We remove the humanity from people when we were colonized. When we colonize other people's lands, we remove the humanity from them. There's 10 things that you have to do to colonize a land. Assimilate, you have to eviscerate, right? You have to discriminate, right? All the 8s. You have to basically eviscerate a land in order to capitalize, to have imperialism, all the things that we're socially conditioned to believe that is good, right? And actually decolonization gives us a practice of removing those things out of our being, right? It allows people who are neurosparkly, people who are differently abled, to see that this world, although has been designed against us, is actually, we all belong here. And there are these hierarchies that we've been socialized into don't exist. They are constructs that were created by white men who are Puritans, who wanted to not be ran and controlled by other white men, and decided to come and take a land, colonize, murder the people who were inhabiting that land and create a system in the ways that they wanted that was attached to inhuman purity, things that they weren't even actually living behind closed doors, but were pushing out loud. And I hope that answered your question. I feel like that was actually
No, 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 no. I wanted to listen to more actually. I was learning. It was good being a fly on the wall. It really was.
I want to know when the book's coming.
the book is actually being worked on now.
Yes.
It is being worked on now.
Yes.
It is being worked on now. Thank you for that. Yes, I am working on a field manual. Mhm.
All right. You mentioned the powerful line. We are co-creators of systems we've never seen before. Can you speak more about that?
Mhm, mhm. I think I'm an abolitionist, right?
Okay.
And so folks often misconstrue abolition by just thinking that we want to tear down the systems, but the most important part of abolition is the co-creation aspect. But again, oppression is only going to use the buzzwords, right, and to push us away from the to understanding what these tracks of freedom and liberation could possibly be. And so, in order to undo the medical industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, the education industrial complex, right? Something else has to exist. There are people, yes, who are in the prison industrial complex who don't deserve to be there. But there are people who need to find different ways of being and need support out of some of the ways that they enact. Some of the community harms that folks act out are not due to lack of resources, right? They're due to something else. And so the containers that exist currently do not help these folks. They do, if anything, some of these folks experience so much harm that they become more harmful. Some of them experience harm and only is used as a trope as to why people deserve, and those identities also deserve harm. And then all we've done is just replicate a system of harm that all we're doing is replacing people in the same system. And so to co-create systems that we need, I believe that all people deserve to be able to try a different way of being. I don't believe that everyone gets to deserve to try that on other people. And so some of the systems that need to be created are containers to help folks work through some of the harms that are not related, again, to government oppressions. And then there are other systems like the medical industrial complex that some of us are pushed into and have experienced so much harm due to our emotional wellness or mental health, that those systems have further pushed us into unwellness. And I have experienced some of that. And so to co-create the systems that we need, that is the world we need. None of these containers would ever happen by themselves. We need multiple people who have experienced the systems that have not helped them to be the creators, the co-creators of what we really need. And unfortunately, we don't see that in mass, but there are multiple containers that exist now that can be replicated once folks continue to enter into them. And my goal is to create multiple containers that hold multiple pathways for people to exit and enter into, right? I believe that, I may have there's a couple containers I do around transformational justice and street justice. And some folks really think that they still need policing. And so I want them to be in the container. However, if they want to continue to replicate carceral systems in that container, they're going to have to exit out. Right. However, hopefully, the work in the container is going to be done and is being done so that whenever they're ready to enter back in, there's a pathway for them to enter into. That we never want to throw people away. We want people to practice their autonomy. We want people to be able to actually practice autonomy in a way that does not harm or replicate systems of oppression. Like Audre Lorde says, the master's tools will not undo the master's house. We might have to break some of them tools up. We might have to take a hammer and break that thing apart, that ship apart, and take the metal and pour it down and reallocate it and reform it. But that same tool, we can use the resources that the tool will be made of, right? Possibly. And sometimes we won't. Sometimes we'll just have to put it down and let it go and create the ways of being that we want. And we do it a lot more often than we think we do. And this container alone, we have practiced revolution, we've practiced transformation, we've practiced creating systems that oppression tells us can't exist and won't exist.
You participated in fellowships and learning cohorts outside traditional academia. What have those spaces taught you?
Those spaces taught me that I'm a leader and I don't need somebody's bachelor's degree or master's degree to tell me that I am an expert in the areas that I am an expert in. I have also learned ways to reach that joy that we were talking about earlier, to reach liberation in alternative ways, in ways that are inclusive. Those containers are the reason why I run when we have an action in the street, why the language I use is what I use. Why, no matter who comes to my actions, no matter how they have to get around in their bodies in the world, they could be in the front line of my actions. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring them to the front line if that's where they feel safe, because they should be seen, because they are part of the revolution. They also are going to experience liberation. Our front lines need to be depicted of who is working on this liberation. And oftentimes we see at the front lines a bunch of able-bodied younger people. We often see multi races, but we often see young able-bodied people in a certain age demographic, and that's it. And the revolution is intergenerational, it's multicultural, it's neurospicy, it's problematic, it's loud, it has ratchet music playing in the background, and it has really good food.
It does. I've eaten some of the revolutionary food. That's why I'm as far along in my evolution as I am. Hey, well, no worries. But no, it's incredible to hear the stories, and it's your doggy.
Hello, doggy.
It's Sasuke. He wanted to say hi.
Hello, Oscar.
Hey.
Sasuke.
Oh, Sasuke.
Oh.
All my anime fans out there, you'll know he acts like Sasuke too. Problematic, very problematic.
I love it. Go ahead, Easy. I didn't want to cut you off.
No, you didn't cut me off at all. I also understand that this is a conversation that I can interject into, but I also need to listen more and talk less on, just because of the respect that I have for the situation and for both of you as well. But it's just incredible to hear. And to truly see, and like you said, you hold on to this joy aspect. I'm someone who will look at the negative until the negative is really negative. So it's, trying to find that spark of joy is sometimes difficult for a person like me. That's.
And I'm happy that you mentioned that. Let's take the time machine back about 5 years ago. There was a protest on the highway. I don't know if it was George Floyd or another. It was George Floyd. I don't think it was. I think it was a little earlier. It was on the highway.
The highway was recently. Yeah. Oh,
that was 5 years ago, 2020.
Yeah,
I was just looking at pictures before, doing my research for the interview. I just want to know your perspective, what was going on through that day before, and how did it feel with that massive turnout, because you shut down a major highway going into downtown New Haven. That speaks volumes within itself.
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was my favorite action, even though there was a lot of stuff that happened in that action.
Mm-hmm.
So much stuff. We had counter protesters. We had all the things. It was at the time we were nationally taking over highways. And believe it or not, that
Mhm.
actually wasn't supposed to be our action. It was at the time there were a bunch of fake actions being posted, and people were doing a lot of disorganizing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this imaginary group that popped up and was making it seem like Black Lives Matter New Haven called for an action. And
Mhm.
we were actually going to take a day of rest because we had been at all the actions before. But folks were calling us and being like, what time should we be at the action? Are we wearing black? And I was like, wait, what's happening? And I am the one in our team that often takes breaks from social media. It just is a lot for me to
Right.
deal with. It's trending language right now, but I am an empath. It's a lot. I feel a lot. And neurosparkly people, I think we're all like empathic, and so it was a lot. And so I wasn't on social media at that time. And so folks were calling me. I'm more accessible with text message and calls. And so I was like, we're not having an action. But when the calls got into the 50s and it was
Mm-hmm.
calling all of us, I got on the internet. We were looking, and then it was like a bunch of, and it was all the language that the disorganizers were doing. And so I was like, well, since they pushed us into an action, we're going to take over this action, because you're not going to have my people who know who they come. Some folks only come to BLM actions in New Haven because they know that they'll be safe. They know
Mm-hmm.
that the kids can come,
Mm-hmm.
know that they will be safe. Right. I run up and down the whole street, making sure that there are no holes, nothing. And so I knew it was too far gone for us to not take over the action. So we took it over.
Mm.
And we took over all of downtown. And I often ask the collective when we're out, what do y'all want to do? Where do we want to go collectively? And y'all said we're going on the highway. So I said, okay, we're going on the highway. And we took over the highway, and not only did we take it over, we sat on that thing. We were there for hours. We made sure we blocked it up both sides. And it was important because one of the challenges of working and doing this work in Connecticut is that we often see things happening in other states, want to replicate them, but don't recognize the full extent of the work that happens before we get to the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of silos here in Connecticut and a lot of interpersonal work that still needs to be done. And so it was really important for us to take that space and for folks to know that we can do whatever folks are doing in every other state, as long as we are co-creating, as long as we're taking care of one another, we're making sure that folks are safe. And that was one of the front lines, that we had people in wheelchairs and
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
scooters on that front line to take over the highway. The police like to try to make it seem like we were working with them. So whenever they were like, okay, we're blocking off this street, I was like, we're taking it. So we drove them crazy. And I don't often use the C word, but they were so upset. Like, we do not work with the police. We do not get permits for our actions. Like, we don't do that. We do not work with the police when it comes to things like that. We'll communicate. We can communicate with anyone. Police are, at the end of the day, are humans, right? And so they deserve to be communicated with, but we don't identify some of the powers that they hold that other people identify. We don't view power in the same ways. And so it was just really important for folks to know that in Connecticut, we are a stronghold.
Mm-hmm.
In Connecticut, Connecticut is a pilot state. There are most initiatives that happen nationally are piloted here in Connecticut. Connecticut is a very important state to this union.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, that sometimes is lost when it comes to social justice movements, because of some of our interpersonal challenges that I'm hoping to continue to work through and work with our people who want to work with them. But I really want to, I follow the lead of the community in that action. And it was important for our community to take over the highway. So I made sure that we did it in a safe way. And then we stayed. Because we don't just do things for because other people are doing them. We sat on that highway. We had many teach-ins. We had people connecting that hadn't seen each other. We had children singing. Little kids were going around telling people why we were here.
On WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Preston, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City, Maine, Mr. EZ BlueZ. Zena, continue. I apologize.
No, don't apologize. Woo, 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 woo. It was just really important for Connecticut itself as a whole to see that we can do these things and we can do them safe. We can do them safe for us, right? But also thwart oppression at the same time and inclusive. Some of that tried to happen in Connecticut and there were folks harmed and things like that. So it was also very important for me to make sure that our space was safe for folks. And that way folks who wanted to be in that and try to do some of the other actions that, they just, maybe they needed some support. I was trained with the Blackout Collective for some of this work. And so I was, trained to lead the actions the way I led them. And then I, coupled with my ancestral thinking, it was important at that time for folks to be able to try that again, to do that, take up that space, and for folks to practice their autonomy. I asked them where they wanted to do, what they wanted to go, and it was really important to make sure that we got to fulfill the need that they had at that time.
We only got so much time left, unfortunately, but I feel we just got a couple layers of this onion. I'd love to get you back on sometime. It's been really fun talking to you. But just my last question for you. You worked with so many organizations, Liberation U, New Haven Symphony, Bloom, Possible Futures. What does true collaboration look like to you and mean to you?
True collaboration means everybody gets a chance to shine. And that means like some folks want to shine out loud in the pictures and some folks want to shine behind the computer creating the scripts, right? It means making space, taking space, and being seen and seeing each other. I think one of the most unspoken needs that people have is to feel seen in who they are. And folks are saying that, right? But like folks, not everyone, right? And some folks feel like that would be a weakness to name that. And true collaboration means seeing the co-creator that you're co-creating with and allowing folks to practice their dignity, practice what they're great at, practice what they're not great at, and make art, to make space, to take space, because we are socially conditioned to not take space. And co-creation and working with folks and partnerships like Possible Futures and Bloom. Alicia at Bloom has supported me in every endeavor. Lauren at Possible Futures supports me at every endeavor. Sometimes when I have nothing and I'm like, I want to do this thing, they have supported me found money for me, created space for me, let me come and sit in their establishments, do my work. And so partnership and co-creation is making sure that we have transformational transactions. I think that all relationships should be transactional, but they should be transformationally transactional, meaning that what I give you, I don't expect you to give me the same things, but I expect you to give me something that is your gift, right? And we have transformation when we do that. And so co-creation and partnership for me is transformational transactions. Yeah.
Speaking of something, this is the closing out. So this final time is going to be dedicated to you. What's something you're currently dreaming into existence, whether personal or collective? And my second part of this, for listeners who want to live more aligned with the liberation and joy, where do they begin? Socials, events, please plug yourself. This time is yours. Go right ahead.
So my website, liberationu.com, is a good space to get in contact with me. Reach out to me, email me at liberation.abar@gmail if you want to get in touch with me. I am going to be releasing some community workshops that are deeply discounted for folks to make sure that you get into the space if it is important for you to be into the space. I am my own boss, so I do have to make an income. I won't actually be making an income. What we'll be making, the money will be providing the food and snacks for our workshops and giving money to the spaces that gifted us the spaces to have our workshops. This summer, we are working in decolonization, conflict, and transformative transformative relations. Please email me if that's something that you would want to get into. We have not yet updated the website yet. That the new website updates will be coming in the next couple of weeks. Because when I say we, I mean me. I am the we. I am partnering, doing this amazing community conversations with New Haven Symphony Orchestra. Please check out New Haven Symphony Orchestra's website. We will be marketing those conversations very soon. We are going to be planning, using those conversations, we're going to be planning a huge event with the Symphony Orchestra that centers the Black historical musicians of our heyday, of our ancestry in like the 1800s and stuff. Work. Check us out on Black Lives Matter New Haven website if you want to follow us on our website. If you are on social media and you do those things, you can follow us, Black Lives Matter New Haven, on Instagram, Facebook. If you want to follow me directly on IG, you can follow me. My name is La Petite Morte, which means orgasm in French, because I am a literal orgasm. All the things. Yeah. And I am around. You can find me. I'm in New Haven. Email me. My text messages, my phone numbers are available at my email. When you email me, you will get the response. Let me know what you want to work with. I am always down to come into your community and curate whatever you need. And I will be back to share more very soon.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Easy. Any closing arguments before I end the broadcast?
No, this has been awesome, and I can't wait for the next one. I just think people will. This is going to be something that people need to listen to 3 or 4 times. So I hope that they go back and they listen and really take the amazing nuggets of wisdom that was given and get to percolate their next evolution.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Y'all are awesome. Thank you for having me. As usual, you both are amazing.
Thank
you.
I
love our communication.
Just a penguin. Just an average penguin.
And on that note, thank you so much, Xena Warrior Princess on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. My name is Preston, and the one and only Long Island Raised, Elm City made, Mr. EZ Blues. Thank you, everybody.
Wondering what to write about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just discount?